slide. Yes, a quick reminder that to make sure that you have registered and set up your organization profile by April 30th in order to meet the running for one of two prizes, $250 cash prizes. So if you haven't finished setting up your organization profile, please do so. And a quick reminder that May 30th is Give Out Day, but the campaign, which is a month-long campaign, begins on May 1st. Next slide. So the webinar for today is maximizing your campaign strategies. We thought we bring together some very interesting stories and tips and strategies on how you really can maximize your campaign to raise as much funds as you can for your organization, as well as engage as many donors as possible, donors that you can then reach out to at some point in the future for additional donations. Next slide. So I have the privilege today to be joined by two colleagues, Sofia Figueroa from Horizons Foundation and Grace Draper from Mighty Cause. Mighty Cause is our partner for Give Out Day. They have the platform that we use to host Give Out Day. Next slide. I'm just quickly going to go over the agenda, and then I'm going to turn it over to Sofia and Grace. The agenda is really divided into two. The first part is on our learning center and lifting up some pieces of it that you might want to revisit if you haven't gone to our learning center, as well as some communication strategies that you might want to use for your campaign. And then Grace will highlight some of the peer-to-peer fundraising strategies, which are really some of the key strategies for donor engagement, as well as the strategies on how you can use some of the cash prizes or potential winning of cash prizes. And then we'll do some Q&A, but I'm pretty sure we'll do Q&A along the way as well. So if you have questions as we go along, please drop them in the chat, and I'll turn it over to Sofia.
Perfect. Wonderful. Thank you for that, Francisco. So we're going to be starting with talking about the Learning Center, and we touched upon this very briefly in our last webinar, if you happen to join that one. But I wanted to go over a little bit more about what exactly, that entails. If we go to the next slide, we can see that we have curated for Horizons Foundation a series of 5 courses, 5 lessons that go through all the aspects of really building your Give Out Day campaign. Everything from building your organization story to turning potential donors into year-long donors. All that information is there, readily available for you in both text and video. And currently we're going to be going through the 4th section, which is communication strategy. And even if you have already gone through that lesson, I hope that we have some little tidbits of knowledge that we can share with you today. And if you have any additional comments to make on our teachings today, feel free to leave them in the comments, and it'll just help out everyone around you. So let's talk about amplifying your mission. You can go on the next slide. We have a series of, let's talk about graphic design. Sorry, I'm talking a little too quickly. Some organizations might have the capacity to create their own graphics and branding for their Give Out Day campaigns. But if you're in a situation where you need some ready-made graphics, or you would just like to use the Give Out Day logo in your own advertising collateral, we have that all ready for you. We have a branding and graphic design section that has not only our logos, but also pre-made graphic templates that you can quickly add your logo on and post on your Instagram feeds, Facebook stories, your emails, wherever that might be. And we also have them in animated styles too this year. Moving on, let's talk a little bit about email marketing in specific. And this one is really critical because not only is email your main channel to recruit fundraisers, but it's also a list of potential donors that you can share reminders and updates to. So these are people that you have hopefully been contacting with about Give Out Day, and we still have some weeks to really kind of engage those potential fundraisers and donors. And once Give Out Day is over, you can thank them and also continue to build those relationships on in the future with, Pride fundraising, end of year appeals, Giving Tuesday, and anything else that you might do. To the right over there, we have a sample email timeline that mimics the one that is on the Give Out Day Learning Center. And feel free to write that down, take a screenshot, whatever it might be, in while you're crafting your emails for the Give Out Day campaign. And this is just a good template overall when you're considering any future giving campaign. And oh, sorry, go back one slide. And the thing about this email timeline is it's one of many timelines that we have available for you on the Give Out Day Learning Center. And we have timelines for email, social media, etc. So if you want any of that information, you want to sit down and look at it and add it to your own calendar, that is all there. Let's move on. 2 quick tips I want to highlight, which I think are critical for organizations like yours, is you want to segment and personalize. What we see sometimes is these mass marketing approaches where people will send out just mass emails, recruiting volunteers or targeting prospective donors, when really what a lot of platforms, for example, like MailChimp, for instance, let you segment and target specific audiences. And you really want to be able to leverage that, even if it's just a list that you curate yourself. For example, you might want to consider inviting new donors to give again, non-donors to make a small gift, and volunteers and board members to create fundraisers. Those are all separate emails with separate wording and that you might want to implement. In fact, if you're talking about maybe talking to people that are more local, like volunteers and board members, you can do a lot with personalizing those emails, crafting it for them, whether that be through really engaging headlines you know will work for them, maybe even in jokes or like small comments that might really, really, really get them. You know your audience better than we ever can. Next, we want to talk about driving action. In the same slide, sorry, go back. When we're talking about driving action, anyone can click on an email, but you really want to drive action. You want people to actually get those clicks in, and you want to make that as easy as possible for the email reader. So we have some quick tips. If you want to keep your text short, you want to make sure email is mobile friendly because so many people nowadays are using their phones to look at these emails. So if it's not formatted correctly and it looks bad on mobile, they're just not going to click on it. You want to make sure you have engaging visuals. People love real life photos. They love animations. They want to be engaged. If you see a paragraph with just a bunch of text and that's it, that can hinder a potential donor or potential fundraiser from reading through and getting to your call to action or CTA. And you want to make sure that the CTA, for example, your call to action may be become a fundraiser or donate now or something similar to that. You want that to appear in multiple ways in your email body, whether it be text in a paragraph and an image in the header and in the footer. You really want to make sure you have multiple points to engage because people will be skimming through it, most likely not reading everything to a T. And sometimes they might just want to click on a picture and see where it's going to send them. They're like, okay, donate now. All right, there's a donate link. Let me go and donate real quick. You want to make it as seamless as possible for them. You don't want your donors or prospective fundraisers, you don't want them to jump through hoops. Let's move on. Here's a sample email snippet that we have. This is one of 6 templates that we have on the Give Out Day Learning Center. And what I really want to highlight here isn't all the text, and you are free to copy this into your own emails and rework it as you so fit. But one of the things that I really want to highlight is making sure, especially for targeting donors, is tell them where the money is going. You want to start building those relationships early and letting them know, like, your money isn't just being sent to a void. In this sample case, we want to raise $5,000 to fund 1,000 calls with local youth seeking support. That is a visceral, concrete example of this is where your money is going to be going. And even if your ask is going to be a smaller amount, like $20, what can that $20 realistically do? Having that transparency there is not only enticing for a donor, but it's also just a clear sign of clear communication and transparency and just saying, hey, like, we are here, we're an actual organization with actual people doing actual real life things benefiting the LGBTQ community, and this is how. Let's quickly talk about traditional media. And just because Give Out Day is a digital campaign doesn't mean that your fundraising tactics have to stick to the digital realm, because even in local radio, print, and TV, we think about those and think about like paid ads, and that is certainly a route that you can go for. But a lot of these local stations, especially, will have segments dedicated to community happenings. By asking local publications, it may be possible you may be able to have some sort of free advertising or low cost advertising available to you, even if it isn't, a big national conglomerate news site. Let's move on to some examples of how that could look. For example, we're looking at Equality North Carolina in 2020. They were able to get media coverage with a local CBS affiliate. Not only were they able to kind of dig into the recent SCOTUS ruling, but they were actually able to embed a Give Out Day call to action within that, the end that CBS was able to pick up and utilize. So now readers have another entry point to your Give Out Day campaign from an audience that, is hopefully, more is a different audience than what you would have targeted on your own. One more example of that is with Inside Out in Colorado. Very similar, talking about Give Out Day as a whole, but also was a really great place to kind of talk about what their critical programs really were and why those donations are important. And again, these are local affiliate news places, people targeting Colorado, people targeting North Carolina. Who are those local reporters near you? Maybe you even had an event in the past that was covered by someone, even if it was a few years ago. Might be a good chance to reach out to them and say, hey, we're doing a Give Out Day campaign. Can you write something quick on it? Or, or can we talk about how we can kind of build that into our future campaigns? It all starts with just one email or one touchback or one coffee meeting. The final section we're going to highlight here is social media marketing and influencer marketing. And some quick things with social media is, one, we want you to utilize your platforms. Obviously, when we're talking about, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, their algorithms are nebulous. They're almost black boxes, and it's really hard to really pull out what matters on these social platforms, and that can change day to day. But one thing that's key is to fully utilize them. You have a followers list of people that are near you. Like, comment, react to posts, comment on people's posts, DM people. Utilize those platforms what they are. Not only is there evidence to suggest that accounts that have high utilization on social media will have their posts better perform, whether or not that's true, you are also building relationships with your follower base. You are telling them, hey, we're not just a social media account that's just going to post donation asks, and that's all we're going to do. No, we are part of the community. We are here to engage with you, celebrate your successes, all of this. And by the way, we're here. This is what we do. We're doing a Give Out Day campaign. We would love your support if you would love to. And along with that, mix up your content. Don't just post about donation asks during Give Out Day or for your other, fundraising campaigns. Showcase your story, showcase statistics, show photos. If you're one of those centers that is doing youth calls, for example, showcase what that looks like. Show your volunteers in action. Show your people doing wonderful, wonderful work for the LGBTQ community. That's what people really want to see, is knowing like, hey, I am loving this cause. I am doing to this cause. Where exactly is my money going? And I feel like I said that a few times this webinar, but I really want to drive that home. Where is the money going? People want to see that. And it leads to very engaging posts, emails, you name it. And then finally, one other tip we can give you. This one is pretty much a webinar exclusive. This isn't in the Learning Center as of now. Create a post plan. You want, again, we're talking about the algorithm. You really want to I don't want to say game the algorithm. It's really using the algorithm as it was intended. Create a plan when you're posting. Let's say you're posting at 9 a.m. on a Tuesday. Let people know. Let friends, family, dedicated people that are, that love your org, let them know, and create this scheduling where people can like your comments in one, in one mass, liking, commenting, engagement storm that can lead to your post being bumped up tons in people's feeds. And not only that, and that's great for your local audience, but that kind of keeps it to who your followers already are. Also, at the same time, encourage people to share your posts on their social media accounts. Because not only are you targeting people that are following you already, one of the hardest parts is how do you target people that aren't already following you? Get people to share your content out, whether it be friends, people that are already volunteers, maybe they're already planning on donating. Encourage them to share on their platforms, and now you have brand new eyes looking at your account. They can give you follows, they can give you likes, and give you all that, and then with the hopes of that turning into a couple new prospective donors, fundraisers, volunteers, you name it. And I think we have one example of that with Trans Lifeline. Now, Trans Lifeline, and this kind of goes into this fundraiser peer-to-peer idea that we'll talk about in the next section with Grace. But I want to end this with talking about how they ended up being a leaderboard winner in 2020. And 200 of their donors came from two social media influencers. Basically single-handedly, basically without them needing to, I don't want to say without them doing the work themselves. It's additional support that they would not have had otherwise. And that is absolutely key because there's only so much that you can do as an organization with this outreach. You have people around you, and leveraging those audiences is definitely key to a very, very successful campaign. Well, that is it from me. So if we want to move to any questions here, if not, we can definitely save them for the end.
There's a couple of questions related to this topic, Sophia. One is with the algorithm changes that suppress political controversial content, what are some strategies you suggest we could do to help our content be shared? Our organization is constantly having low visibility because of this.
Sure. Well, yeah, a part of that is going to be, oh, yes. So thank you for that question. A part of that kind of coincides with this idea of sharing out to other audiences, whether it be through friends or affiliates of your organization. That's one way of reaching new audiences that aren't tied to yours, if there is evidence of your account itself being suppressed. There's other ways to kind of mitigate that with mixing up what your content is. So for example, and again, the algorithm is very nebulous and a black void sometimes, it's really hard to pinpoint case by case, like what it could be that's happening to your account. But if it is that you're doing a lot of political action that's constantly being suppressed by the algorithm, try mixing it up with other forms of content, whether that be educational content, whether it be photos of events that are happening, or it could be more local news, something that isn't overtly political. And I know I'm being a little vague there, but by mixing up your content, you can kind of tell the algorithm that you have other forms of content that can be pushed. And for a lot of people, by mixing up their content for a while, that'll kind of bring them out of that kind of hole that you see where whether it be shadow banning or suppression in the algorithm. But unfortunately, like I said, it's a very big black void, and no one really knows like the specifics in that. But by leveraging other people's audiences and by trying to mix up your content a little bit to not only post the same kind of content all the time, that can hopefully kind of break you out of that hole over time.
I was also going to add the fact that leaning into the fact that Give a Day is a day of giving.
Hmm.
And given how popular Giving Tuesday is, the algorithms in a way have kind of learned how to deal with that. And I think by leaning into, you know, using some of the, I don't want to say bland language, but some of the given language in terms of like join us in this day of giving, or give out, that would begin to, kind of hopefully go around some of the issues that around blocking content. I know, for Horizons as an LGBTQ foundation, we've had issues at times of our own posts that's just around giving. And, and I know that we play a lot with how much visual versus text goes into some of our social media posting. Yes, because we know that first of all, a lot of companies have some regs in terms of visual versus text, but it helps to get around some of those algorithms. And and sometimes it's making your call to action very simple, because what you want people to do is to click on that post and go to your Give a Day page. And there you can have some of the more detailed stuff about what your organization may do or does that social media may block. So it's really about, as Sophia was saying, clicking, getting them to click and go to the your Give a Day page. And any recommendations on how much we should be posting?
No, there are no strict recommendations other than you are consistent with your audience's behavior. Platforms like Instagram and Facebook actually have really good insight tools if you're a business account. And I believe it's just a simple tick to become a business account. Um, that'll tell you information like when your followers are generally active, at what times of the day. And if you notice that, for example, 3 days out of the week, they are very active and engaged in the mornings, try posting around that schedule. You should see higher engagement. But there is no like specific like, oh, donation asks on Fridays, or you can look around and Google that information. A lot of organizations have different opinions on what that really looks like. But as long as you're consistent and post a couple times a week, you should be fine. Yeah, but don't expect us to post like once in the Give Out Day campaign and be done with it. Similarly with ads, you can if you are opting in for paid ads, leveraging that, every day out of the month could be a good way of keeping that on people's minds as they are scrolling through social media. Consistency is really just the key there.
Yeah, I would echo that. We've been hosting Give a Day. Horizons has been hosting Give a Day for almost 10 years. So we've seen different approaches to posting. And I think it's Sophia was saying the balance is there. One time is not going to do it, but posting every hour on the hour, what you actually may do, people may start to block you or unfollow you. So it's a balance. And I think it's a great segue to turn it over to Grace, who's going to talk about some of the peer-to-peer and some of the strategies around with the prices that you may link on when you post, depending on those hours and all those pieces. So I'll turn it over to Grace.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. And great questions so far. I always enjoy hearing these presentations because I can take it back to my other giving events, these recommendations that you all have. So I really appreciate the conversation. But let's get into peer-to-peer fundraising strategies. So we briefly touched on peer-to-peer fundraising in our first webinar. We talked about how to use peer-to-peer fundraising on the platform. So if you missed that or you need a refresher, I would recommend go watch that recording or use one of our help articles as far as setting up peer-to-peer fundraising. But today I really wanted to talk more about the strategy and things to keep in mind now that we're getting closer to early giving opening on May 1st. You're probably getting close to asking your peer-to-peer fundraisers to join you. So we'll do a quick refresher on how to use peer-to-peer fundraisers. So a peer-to-peer fundraiser is where you ask your supporters, whether they are donors, board members, volunteers, asking them to set up a fundraising page for your organization on the platform. So you'll be utilizing their network. Sophia mentioned that great example of the organization that Trans Lifeline that did that and had the influencers set up the pages. This is very similar. It can be an influencer, which is great because they have such a great network. but also thinking about people in your local community, business community, volunteers who also are just very sociable and have a great network, or a great social media presence, even on LinkedIn. Someone who's really active on LinkedIn might be a good option. And the best part about this is that creating a peer-to-peer fundraiser page is free. So this is a great opportunity, especially for those who volunteer, who like to give their time, who aren't as able to donate as much as everyone necessarily. They can do this for free and support you and help you with fundraising and be involved in the cause. So a few things to think about with your peer-to-peer strategies. You can put out the call for peer-to-peer fundraisers in a general sense. You can do a social media post, but there's real value in engaging your participants, not just asking them to set up the page, but really walking them through what should they put on their page. Again, shout out to the last webinar. We talked about the fundraiser template. So using that template to really help them be set up for success, showing them what you want them to communicate and the goals that you would like them to have. You're really going to empower them to become advocates for your cause by doing this, by having those conversations. Even it's just email tips going out more often, but something beyond just that initial ask saying, please set up a peer-to-peer fundraiser page for us. Really think about what your fundraisers may need to be successful. Becoming a peer-to-peer fundraiser can also build community. It's a great way for volunteers to have a friendly competition. It's a great way to engage your community members. Whether they're already connected or not, maybe think about a local group that you would like to get connected with. Again, this page is free to create, so maybe you reach some new supporters that way. Instead of asking them to donate, you ask them to set up a peer-to-peer fundraiser page. But it's a great way to build community and get more members of your community involved. You also want to make sure you're providing support and recognition. So again, going back to providing resources, providing tips and suggestions, that fundraiser template, all great things to do. And then as your peer-to-peer fundraisers are raising money, you'll want to recognize them for their achievements. So being able to feature them maybe on social media, sending a thank you, a shout out, highlighting the page in an email, some kind of recognition for those peer-to-peer fundraisers publicly. If that's a lot to manage, you have a lot going on, you're doing a lot of social media already, even just an individual thank you email to recognize the efforts that those peer-to-peer fundraisers go to, that can really go a long way. And almost thanking them up front, midway through the day or throughout early giving leading up to the give out day might be a great way, because then you're thanking them ahead of time and they feel recognized and they want to keep fundraising for you. So it's all about making those peer-to-peer fundraisers feel seen and supported, in addition to providing them the tools and resources that they need. I also wanted to touch on matching grants and peer-to-peer fundraising. So we talked about matching grants in the last webinar as well. There's a huge impact when you set up a matching grant, and you can set that up on your organization page for all your peer-to-peer fundraisers if you want to do an overall match, or you can encourage your peer-to-peer fundraisers to set up their own match. So maybe when you're soliciting potentially a board member or a donor, you can say, why don't you set up a peer-to-peer fundraising page and use your annual donation? A lot of people have board member thresholds, whether that's $500 or $1,000 as a donation. They have kind of that expectation with their board. Encourage them to use that donation as a matching grant for their peer-to-peer fundraiser page, because on the screen, you'll see the 2021 peer-to-peer fundraising benchmark study found that campaigns with matching gifts raise an average of 2.5 times more than those without matching gifts. So this is really going to bring the impact. And that's not just it's doubling the gift with the matching grant, it's the actual donations themselves without the matching grant that are 2.5 times more. So that's a great statistic too to use for your organization page. As far as matching grants, but considering how to leverage that in the peer-to-peer fundraising could really double that impact that you already have. Matching grants also boost the motivation of the participant, whether that's the peer-to-peer or the actual donors. Obviously, it motivates donors, but it can get the peer-to-peer fundraiser excited as well. So if you have that organization overall matching grant set up and it trickles down to your peer-to-peer fundraisers, it's motivating for them. And to the next point, it creates a sense of urgency, because especially if you have that overall matching grant set up, they want to get their page to have the most donations matched because it makes their page look really good. So they'll have that sense of urgency to bring the donors in and get as much of that matching grant counted towards their peer-to-peer fundraising goal so that they can meet that goal and feel very successful. So a matching grant can really go a long way also to motivate your fundraiser themselves. And then again, it creates a sense of urgency, not only for the fundraiser, but also for the donors. So that can really help with getting your peer-to-peer fundraisers to raise more on the page. And it gives them something to communicate when they're sharing the page. You know, all donations given to my page will be matched, you know, 1-to-1 until the match runs out. So like donate today. So it gives them something to work with when they're making the ask in their network or on their social media. A few things to do for success. Keep your participants engaged with regular updates. So going back to that participant engagement, you know, we're leading up to early giving now. So consider how to solicit your peer-to-peer supporters leading up from now until the 1st. We're kind of in that time window where they can take action somewhat immediately. So we're in a great window to be soliciting those supporters. And then also sending them regular updates. So consider them almost like the Horizons Foundation sends you all tools and updates throughout this giving prep period. Kind of do that for your peer-to-peer supporters. So sending them, you know, here's a new social media resource or a new graphic recreated, or, you know, so far we've raised X dollars thanks to our peer-to-peer fundraisers. You know, let's keep it going through early giving. Let's keep it going on Give Out Day, showing them how they really affect that bigger picture for your organization. Again, express gratitude and recognition. So showing appreciation through social media, your email newsletters, and then again, those individual thank yous that we talked about. And then provide ongoing support. So the support doesn't start just with the setup, or it doesn't stop just with the setup and the initial peer-to-peer fundraiser page. You'll want to keep supporting your peer-to-peer fundraisers going forward as they fundraise on the page, like even once the pages are active. And I know that feels like a lot to do. You know, you have a lot to manage and you can't just be sending out emails all the time, but really, you know, Sophia mentioned short and sweet emails go a long way. So if you can just type out something almost like you would text a friend and send it out via email, you know, hey guys, we just reached 5,000, you know, we just reached $1,000. Thanks so much. Keep it going. You know, those little things will go a long way. So you don't have to make anything super crazy, no, you know, email newsletter template needed. You can just send out some really nice, quick messages when you have a minute to keep them engaged and provide support. So a few next steps. We talked about these in the first webinar as well, but I wanted to remind everyone to create your fundraiser template before you ask supporters to fundraise for you. Having that template ready means that they can just click and go in just a couple clicks off your organization page, and their peer-to-peer fundraiser will be set up a lot quicker. Creating a list of supporters that you know are invested, whether that's time or money, you know, who are your best audience to have for the peer-to-peer fundraisers, or who might help you gather a group of peer-to-peer fundraisers who has a network that might want to all peer-to-peer fundraise for you. You also want to create a list and kind of have the top few that are very responsive. I think we all know some great people, great connectors, but they're not always responsive because they are so busy. So thinking about who is going to respond quickly, who will take the time to set up the page, that's who you want to invest the initial time in to get those peer-to-peer fundraisers going. And then think about the connectors in your community. So it doesn't have to be a social media TikTok influencer. While that would be great, it can just be someone who's really well connected and active in your local community and knows a lot of people. That can go a long way as well. And then using the peer-to-peer email templates in the Learning Center, that can make your communications quick and easy. They have a lot of great resources in there that you can use. You can adapt the social media posts even for some of your communication. And then just a tip, sending your peer-to-peer solicitation emails 1 week before May 1st. We're really in the timeline. You could send them now. But we wanted to remind you that it's best when the donor can take action right away and create that page and start sharing and fundraising. If you had asked them too early, sometimes there's a little disconnect. So we're in the right window to start asking. Do we have any questions about peer-to-peer fundraising before we move on? I do see one about if you missed the first webinar, is there an easy way to access that content? I believe, Sophia, where did Horizons Foundation post that, or Francisco?
The first webinar, Sophia?
Yeah, the first webinar recording, I believe is it in the Learning Center or it's on the YouTube, I want to say?
Yeah,
It's
no,
on YouTube.
the first webinar is on our YouTube channel.
Okay.
I'm getting a link right now.
And
Okay.
Grace, can I just add, you know, the peer-to-peer part, you know, as an example. So, you know, I'm on the board of 2 LGBTQ organizations. So, you know, it's because we host Give Out Day, my participation is somewhat limited. But what I do is I give them a challenge grant as a board member for them to use
Mhm.
for Give Out Day and early giving. It's very the NPR model, but it really works because it really, as you said, Sophia, it really energizes people to kind of say, yeah, you know, dollar for dollar, it's a great match. And you know, and the other piece I would say, you know, figure out how you engage the peer-to-peer folks. There are folks that are just willing to give you the grant but do no more, and there's folks that are really, waiting to tell their network about it and about your organization. And then the last thing I would say, you know, that goes back to what Sophia said and Grace and you said, that given how loud and crowded social media is and how many emails there are, one of the best ways for people to give is if somebody they know tells them about your organization. It really breaks through, like, is this legit? Am
Mhm.
I being spam? It's, you know, it's kind of like, and the message can be as simple as like, hey, I volunteer for this great organization. Would you please give a donation to them during Give Out Day? The message can be that simple. What we've seen over the years is that your peer-to-peers really fan out across the country. So sometimes you have, you know, an organization that activated their peer-to-peer network in Tennessee, and they're getting donations from New York and Washington and Oregon, yes, because friends of friends of friends are all over the nation. So it's a great way to really multiply your message. So there you go.
Awesome. And yeah, it looks like Sophia put the link to the recording from webinar 1 in the chat. So definitely click and bookmark that while you're on this webinar. And this webinar will also be recorded and slides shared as well for you afterwards if you need it. So we'll move on to prize strategies, and then we can take any more Q&A at the end. We want to talk about how to make your donations count. The Horizons Foundation has set up some really awesome prizes for you all and some power hours. So just thinking about how to strategize around those prizes and really evaluate what's there and how you might be able to rally your supporters to win a prize. So a few prize strategies that really work. We talk about this with many of our giving events, and we've seen a lot of success for the orgs that feel that they maybe don't always have a chance, they're a little smaller, or they don't have quite the same access or amplification as other organizations. If you really just choose a prize, maybe two, depending on how you're strategizing, and promote that in your communications, it really communicates directly to your donors. Like, if we can get the most unique donors in this hour, if we can raise the most dollars in the overall time frame, you know, depending on what your capacity is, look at your history of fundraising. If you're in the top fundraising organizations each year and you're maybe right below that threshold for winning a prize, tell your supporters that, like, this year we're going for the top dollar prize. If you're more about a smaller organization, if you're more about the unique donors, we identify unique donors by email address. So being able to communicate that, you know, the more peer-to-peer fundraisers you have, the more unique donors you may get. As Sophia mentioned, that one org got 200 donors they wouldn't have necessarily communicated with otherwise. So tying it back to peer-to-peer, that can be a great way to get unique donors and go for those prizes. And then celebrate your wins. So if you are going for one of the overall prizes, being able to communicate the milestones to your donors. Here's where we are, here's where we need to get. You know, we're in 6th place and the prize is in 5th place. That's where it starts. Being able to just communicate that. I think sometimes it can feel a little odd to tell your donors that you're going for a prize, but it's actually the best way to get the prize, really, because they want to see you win and they want to know that their donation is going to go further by helping you get this extra money towards your organization's mission. So definitely just look at the prize list on the website and take a look at kind of what you have the capacity to do, what you have the communication to do, and really focus in on that one prize. So next we just have our general Q&A. If anyone has any additional questions for us about prizes or the Learning Center, peer-to-peer fundraising, what was the other? Communications, social media. I do want to make a point actually to Sophia's point about the traditional media. I think sometimes we get used to online being like the top way to communicate, but there are a lot of donors of a certain income bracket that really pay attention to traditional media with that, just print and newsletters, newspapers. So it is a great way. It may feel a little counterintuitive, but it's a great way to reach a certain audience for sure.
And and I like that, right? Because we're also looking at the media that may reach the audience that will give to you, like NPR,
Mhm.
your local NPR station may be a great way to go. Just because they'll have, as was said earlier, some community content that they might want to advertise. The other piece is, I know some organizations that are more, in smaller areas, more local or rural. They do other strategies in terms of like, with Mighty Cause, you can get a QR code and they may do some leaflets and get their local businesses just to post with a QR code, which takes them to the donation page. So I think, there's different strategies that can be used around this. I also like what Grace said. I want to lift this up that, that we have several power hours throughout the day. And depending, we're spanning 5 time zones. So hosting a given day across 5 time zones sometimes can be difficult. And so look at which power hour or which 2 power hours may work best for your time zone. Like if you live in an urban area and a lot of people commute, I take the subway. I look at my email while I'm on the subway. So somebody like me that lives in the West Coast, the 9 a.m. Pacific time power hour may be the right time to reach out to me, because that's when I'll be looking at my email before I get to work. So there's different strategies. And then the other piece that I want to lift up is that what we've learned over the years is that when you ask somebody to fundraise for you and you ask them to write an email, they get the Bambi caught in the caught in headlight type look, kind of like, oh no, I have to write an email, or I have to write a Facebook post. That's why in the Learning Center we have templates, and I would say share those templates to your folks that are going to fundraise for you, because the participation is higher when you give them something that they just have to modify, as opposed to like not sit down and write something. And those are, there's a lot of studies have shown that is lessons that we learn over the years and we're incorporating into the Learning Center. Any other questions that folks may have? Okay, so I know that we're going to be sending a link to this webinar, and probably we should include that link to the first webinar in that email, Sophia. I'm thinking about just including both links, and we're going to be advertising or sending some information when we're going to have office hours. We are so excited that early giving will begin May 1st. Give a days May 30th. And we're here to be as helpful as we can. Mighty Causes is a great partner to work with. They are so helpful, as well as the Give a Day team at Horizons Foundation is here to assist you, so you can have the best Give a Day campaign possible that works for your organization. Thank you.